The sky above Dravik 4 turned red as the small human shuttle fell through the clouds. Fire trailed behind it, lighting the dark sky like a comet. The shuttle was spinning out of control. It hit the ground with a loud crash that echoed across the quiet plains. Smoke and dust rose into the air. The wreckage lay still, half buried in the rocky soil. Inside the broken ship, 3 people were alive. One of them, Jake Carter, opened his eyes slowly. His body hurt in many places. Blood ran down his forehead, and his leg was trapped under a metal beam. Still, he pushed himself up and looked around. He saw his 2 teammates. One of them was Ava, the pilot. Her arm was badly hurt. The other was Leo, the engineer, who was not moving much. Jake took a deep breath, then used his hands to free his leg. It felt broken, but he did not stop. Jake dragged himself toward Leo. He checked for signs of life. Leo groaned softly. That was enough. Jake smiled a little, then moved to help Ava. She was awake but in pain. He helped her out of her seat and led her toward the hatch. The air outside was hot and dry. Jake stepped out of the shuttle with one arm around Ava and one hand pulling Leo. His back burned. His leg felt like fire, but he did not stop. They had to get away from the shuttle in case it exploded. Far away, tall blue figures watched the crash from behind the hills. The Talari, the people of Dravik 4, had never seen such a thing before. They were peaceful and quiet, not used to visitors from the sky. When they saw the humans fall, they gathered their courage and moved closer. The Talari found Jake lying near a rock, barely awake. Ava and Leo were unconscious. The Talari spoke in soft voices and called their medics. They used floating stretchers and brought the humans to their healing center. Jake opened his eyes again inside a white room. Strange lights moved above him. He saw shadows moving. Then a face appeared, not human, but calm and curious. The Talari doctor, Virene, looked down at him. She spoke in her own language. The machine beside her turned her words into English. "You are hurt. Please stay calm. We are helping you." Jake smiled weakly and said thanks. Virene scanned his body. Her face changed as she read the results. 17 bones were broken. His lungs had been bruised. Blood filled parts of his body. The other doctors whispered. They had never seen a creature survive such damage. 17 breaks, Virene said. "How are you awake?" Jake looked at her and said, "Oh, that. Just a rough landing." The Talari were shocked. They did not understand. Their people would be unconscious, or worse, from such wounds. Jake, on the other hand, asked for water. Virene watched him for hours. She saw him talk through the pain, ask about his friends, and even joke a little. She had studied many life forms, but none like this. She called her assistant Nira and told her to learn from this human. Nira sat beside Jake and listened to his stories. He told her about Earth, his work as a combat medic, and how he had seen worse. She found it hard to believe, but his voice was steady. He spoke with honesty. Meanwhile, Ava and Leo were healing in nearby rooms. The Talari used soft energy fields to fix bones and clear blood. Their healing tech was gentle and fast. Jake's body, however, took more time. His injuries were deep, but he kept talking, helping the doctors understand what to do. The Talari started to respect Jake. He did not cry or scream, helped even when he was the one in need. His spirit was something they had never seen. In the quiet nights, Nira would sit and ask Jake about pain. He would smile and say, "Pain is just a message. I hear it, then move on." The story of the human with 17 broken bones began to spread. The Talari had many names for him now. The Unbroken, the Fire-Blooded, the one who walks through storms. Jake did not care about names. He just wanted his friends to get better. But deep inside, he knew something big had started. He was not just a guest on this planet. It was the start of something more. And in the halls of the Talari Center, the legend of the crash survivor began to grow. Jake sat up on the healing bed, moving slowly. His chest still hurt when he breathed, but he was getting better. The Talari doctors had done something amazing. Their machines hummed with light, and their tools made no sound. It was different from Earth's hospitals. Everything felt calm. Dr. Virene walked into the room, her long arms folded behind her back. She nodded at Jake and looked at the screen beside his bed. "You are healing faster than expected," she said, "but your body has strange ways. Jake gave a small smile. Human bodies can take a lot. Viren turned to Nira, who stood beside her. He should not be sitting. 17 breaks. The bones are not even healed fully. Nira looked at Jake with wide eyes. Why do you not rest more? Jake stretched his fingers. Because I need to check on my friends. And I can't just lie here doing nothing. Nira tilted her head. But pain. It must be great. Jake looked at her and shrugged. I've had worse. This confused the Talari even more. Their kind would go into a healing sleep for even small injuries. Pain was a big deal to them, but Jake treated it like an old friend. Byron called other physicians to study Jake. They watched him move, speak, and even laugh a little. They scanned his brain and muscles. Every scan gave them new questions. His nerves showed pain, but he acted normal. His bones were still weak, yet he walked. The doctors began to keep records. They called the files case Human One. Jake helped them too. He told them how humans fight infections, showed them how human medkits work, even opened his own to show the tiny tools inside. Irene was surprised by how small and strong human machines were. You carry this in your clothes? She asked. Always, Jake said. It saves lives. Nira took notes. She was learning quickly. She asked about Earth, about soldiers, and about how humans live in harsh places. Jake told her stories of frozen lands, dry deserts, and deep oceans. One day, Nira brought a small tablet to Jake. It showed a map of Tellerai villages. She pointed to one near the mountains. There was shaking, rocks fell, people hurt. We sent help. Jake looked at the screen. Do you need more hands? You cannot walk far, she said. Jake stood slowly. I can try. Against the advice of Irene, Jake joined the trip to the village. He moved with care, but his will was strong. When they reached the damaged village, Talari were surprised to see him. They had heard of the human who would not rest. Jake began helping right away. He lifted small beams, gave first aid, and calmed children. The Talari watched him work even with pain in his step. They had never seen such spirit. That night around a fire, Nira asked him, "Why do you help so much? You are not from here." Jake looked at the stars, because people are people. Pain is the same everywhere. If I can stand, I can help. The Talari began to see him differently. He was not just a visitor, he was part of something bigger. Nira wrote to Viren about what she saw. She said, he gives more than strength. He gives hope. Back at the healing center, Viren showed Jake a chart. It compared Talari and human bodies. The Talari had soft inner walls to protect organs. Humans had hard bones and thick muscles. Your kind was made for danger, she said. Jake replied. But danger makes you care more. We fight to protect. Viren nodded. But what if you had peace? Jake looked around the room. Then we would still help. It's who we are. The Talari began to teach their young ones about human ways. It's not about weapons, but about strength and kindness. Jake became a story, a lesson, and a friend. And every time someone asked him about the crash, he just smiled and said, "Oh, that?" Jake woke up early. The sun on Dravik 4 was rising slowly, painting the sky with colors he had never seen before. The light touched the tall trees and the round hills. It was a calm morning. But Jake did not rest. He stepped out of the healing center and walked toward the training field that the Talari had built for him. His legs still hurt, but he kept going. He had a job to do. He wanted to teach the Talari how to protect themselves. They had no army, no defense, and no plan if danger came. Could not let that stay the same. Nira waited for him at the edge of the field. She held a small box filled with tools he had asked for. She greeted him with a smile. "You are here early," she said. "So are you," Jake replied. Nira watched as Jake opened the box. Inside were ropes, sticks, and pieces of cloth. Nothing sharp, nothing deadly. Jake had promised the elders he would not train the Talari to harm, only to protect. One by one, Talari workers, farmers, and builders arrived. They were not soldiers. They had never fought. Some were nervous, others curious. Jake stood in front of them. "We are not here to make war," he said. "We are here to stay safe. We learn, we watch, we act when needed." He showed them how to make simple traps with vines, how to use noise to scare off threats, how to form lines and help each other. It was not about power, it was about being ready. The Talari watched carefully. Their bodies moved slowly at first, but they learned fast. Jake was patient. He showed them again and again. In the afternoons, he gave talks about Earth, about storms, wild animals, and how people work together to survive. The Talari listened closely. One evening, Nira brought a small device to Jake. It showed messages from other villages. One message made her face turn pale. Korlak's scouts seen near mountainside, she read. Jake stopped moving. Korlaks? Yes, she said. They burn. They take. They do not ask. Jake knew the name. His training had told him about the Korlaks, a cruel race that moved from planet to planet. They took what they wanted. They did not care who they hurt. He looked at Nira. You have to prepare now. Nira nodded and ran to tell the council. Jake followed. Inside the round hall, the elders sat in silence. They had heard the message too. One elder spoke. We will hide. We will move under the hills. Jake shook his head. They will find you. They always do. You must stand. We do not fight, another said. You do not have to fight, Jake replied. But you can defend. You can protect. The room was quiet, and Virene stood up. She had watched Jake teach. She had seen what he could do. Let him lead, she said. Let him show us. The elders agreed. Jake was now in charge of preparing the villages. It was not a role he asked for, but he took it. He worked day and night. He trained more people. He helped them build barriers, showed them how to use sound and light to confuse the enemy. The Talari used their own tools too. Their machines could move soil, build fast walls, and heal quickly. Jake and Nira worked together. She turned his ideas into plans that the Talari could follow. She was his voice, his bridge. One night, while checking the gates, Nira asked, "Why do you do all this? Your ship may come back. You could leave?" Jake looked at the stars. "'Cause I came from a place where people help each other, even strangers, even across worlds." Nira smiled. She now believed it too. The Talari villages began to change. Were still peaceful, but now they were ready. And at the center of it all was the human who once had 17 broken bones. Jake stood tall, watching over the hills. He knew they would come. And when they did, the Talari would not run, would stand. Together. Jake stood on the watchtower, looking toward the far mountains. The wind moved slowly across the dry land. The air was quiet, but he felt something was coming. He had seen this kind of quiet before. Back on Earth, just before a storm or a fight. Down below, Talari workers were placing stones along the paths. Others tied vines across trees to set traps. Children were moved to safe houses deep inside the village. The people had changed. They no longer walked in fear. They moved with purpose. Nira climbed the tower to meet him. She handed him a small tablet. Another message came from the scout post. Jake read it. Korlak's patrol spotted 5 hills east, moving slow. Big ship seen. He nodded. They are testing us. Watching first, they know someone is here. Nira looked worried. Can we stop them? Jake turned to face her. We can slow them. We can make them think twice. That is enough. Back in the planning room, Jake spread a map on the table. The Talari leaders stood around him. He pointed to weak spots, narrow paths, and blind hills. They will come from here. We set lights in this area. When they get close, we use sound. We confuse them, then we move fast. We do not fight head-on. We strike, then move. The Talari listened. Some had doubts, but they trusted him now. He had saved lives. He had given them hope. They worked through the night. Small teams were sent to nearby villages to spread the word. Jake showed the younger Talari how to use signal lights. They used color and shape instead of sound. It was fast and clear. By morning, the village looked different. Hiding spots were ready. Shields were placed on open paths. Tall plants were bent to cover walkways. It was not a strong wall, but it was smart. Jake took a short rest in the healing center. His leg was better, but not perfect. He used a cane made by Talari woodworkers. It was light and strong. Virene checked on him. You do too much, she said. Your body still heals. Jake smiled. I rest after. Not now. She gave him a bag with supplies. Use these if pain grows. He took it. Thanks. Later that day, Nira showed Jake a large cave system under the hill. She had helped turn it into a safe zone for the young and weak. If the worst happens, she said, they'd stay here. Jake nodded. You did well. This may save many. Nira looked at him. Will Earth send help? Jake walked over to a broken device. It was the comm unit from the shuttle. Wires stuck out from the sides. He had been working on it in his free time. Maybe he said, I sent a message, a small one. It took hours to power up. I don't know if it got through. Nira placed a hand on the device. Then we stand alone. Not alone, Jake said. Together. The next night, lights were seen in the sky. The Talari spotted large shadows moving through the hills. Ships hovered, silent but heavy. The Korlax had arrived. Jake stood with the Talari guards. They held long poles with light tips. Not weapons, but strong enough to push back. Hidden traps were ready. Signal lights were set. When the first Korlax scout stepped into the field, a sound trap went off. Loud noise filled the air. Lights flashed. The scout turned back. Jake gave the order. Now. Telleri moved from the trees and threw powder into the air. The powder blinded the scouts. Hidden ropes pulled one to the ground. No one was killed, but the message was clear. More Korlax came, but not fast. They were confused. This world was not weak. It was not easy. All night, small battles happened. Lights, noise, and movement. Jake led every strike. He ran when he had to, crawled when he could not run. He gave orders with his hands. Nira stayed close, sending signals to other teams. By morning, the Korlax had pulled back. They had lost no ships, but they had lost time. They did not expect resistance. Not from farmers, not from builders. Jake sat on a rock, breathing hard. Nira gave him water. You did it, she said. We did it, he replied. The Talari gathered around. Some cried, some laughed, all felt something new. They had stood their ground, and the legend of the human who once said, "Oh, that," grew even stronger. The day after the first battle, the village was quiet. Some Talari sat near the walls, tired but proud. Others checked traps and fixed broken lights. The air was full of smoke and dust, but no one was afraid anymore. They had faced the Korlax and lived. Jake walked through the village slowly. His cane touched the ground with each step. His back ached and his leg throbbed, but he kept moving. He wanted to check every corner, every station, every guard post. He needed to see that the people were ready for what might come next. Nira followed him, with a list in her hand. Food supplies still strong, she said. Water clean, healing packs low, but more coming from the East Village. Jake nodded. Good, what about the outer traps? 10 still work, 3 need repair. Get teams on them now. As they walked, Telleri children waved to Jake. Some called him the Silent Flame. Others just smiled and pointed at his cane. To them, he was more than a helper. He was a protector. Later, inside the main hall, Talari leaders met again. Jake stood before them, leaning on his cane. They will return, he said. They are not finished. That was just the start. One elder asked, but why here? We have little. Jake looked around. Because you are easy to reach. Your world has no defense. They think it is free for the taking, other leaders said. Then what do? We cannot win a war. We do not fight their war, Jake said. We fight our way. Small moves, fast strikes, make them chase shadows. He pointed at the map again. We move people out of the center. We set false paths. We guide them where we want them. The leaders agreed. They had seen what Jake's mind could do. They had felt the power of his will. For the next few days, everyone worked without rest. New tunnels were built under the village. Old buildings were turned into traps. Talari machines were used to build barriers from rock and metal. Jake trained new teams. He taught them how to move without sound, how to send signals in the dark, how to build defense with nothing but nature. Nira stayed with him every hour. She helped explain his plans to the others. She helped lead the drills and test the traps. You speak like us now, she told him one night. Your words feel like home. Jake smiled. Maybe this place is becoming home. On the 5th day, a message came through the repaired comm unit. The weak signal was clear enough. Earthship approaching. Rescue team confirmed. landing in 5 days. Jake sat still for a long moment. Then he showed the message to Nira. She read it twice. You will leave soon, yes, but not yet. You will tell them about us. I will tell them everything. The next day, Tellaré scouts returned with bad news. The Korlax had built a base near the hills. They were setting up towers and landing pads. Jake knew this meant a full attack was near. He stood before the Tellaré again. They are ready to strike. We must act first. We cannot let them build. Nira stepped forward. What is your plan? Jake looked at her. We hit the base. At night, we use the hills, the shadows. We destroy their gear. Then we vanish. A young Tellaré asked, but what if we are caught? Jake answered. Then we stand together, like before. That night, Jake led the team into the dark hills. The stars above gave little light, but their path was clear. Nira walked beside him. Behind them, silent Tellaré moved like wind. They reached the edge of the enemy base. Machines stood tall, blinking with red lights. Korlax guards walked slowly, not expecting danger. Jake gave the signal. The Tellaré spread out. One by one, they placed charges made from local powder. Others used tools to cut wires. Jake crawled under a fuel tank and left a small pack. Then, they ran. The sky behind them lit up with fire. Loud sounds followed. Korlax guards shouted. Lights searched the hills. But the Tellaré were already gone. Back at the village, they waited. The fire was seen from far away. The ground shook. Everyone held their breath. Jake walked into the center. We did it. The people cheered. Nira cried and laughed at once. But Jake stayed quiet. He knew the final fight was near. The Korlax would come angry. But the Tellaré were no longer weak. They were ready. They had each other. And they had the human who never gave up. The night before the final battle, the sky over Dravik 4 was quiet. Stars blinked in silence. A cold wind passed through the trees. Inside the village, no one slept. People sat near fires, fixing tools and checking supplies. They spoke in low voices. They knew what was coming. Jake stood in front of the main gate, looked at the dark hills. Korlax had been hit hard, but they had not left. They had called for more ships. A larger force was now on its way. Nira joined him. She held a light map showing heat signals from the hills. They come at first light, she said. 2 ships, many soldiers. Jake nodded. Then we meet them here. We give them nothing easy. They return to the planning room. The Tellaré leaders were waiting. Jake laid the map on the table. This is where they land. This is where we lead them. They will chase what they think is a weakness. But we show them strength. We pointed to the hills east of the village. We used the rocks, the trees. We trapped them in. One elder said, we will stand, not run. Jake looked at them. You are not just standing. You are protecting everything you love. That makes you strong. When the first light broke the sky, the Korlax ships appeared. 2 black shapes flew low and landed near the hills. Dust flew up in thick clouds. From inside the ships, rows of tall, armored Korlax soldiers marched out. They held heavy weapons and moved fast. The Tellaré were ready. Jake gave the first signal. Lights flashed from the trees. A small group of Tellaré ran into the open fields, pretending to retreat. The Korlax followed. Then the real traps began. Hidden vines pulled soldiers off their feet. Flash bombs lit the sky and confused their eyes. Sounds bounced off the rocks, making it hard to hear orders. From behind trees, Tellaré teams pushed large rocks down the slopes. They struck with force, breaking lines. Jake moved fast through the fight. He gave orders, helped the injured, and pulled more traps into place. He did not rest. Nira stayed close, passing messages and keeping the teams in touch. The Korlax started to fall back, but they did not leave. Their leader, a tall figure in black armor, stepped forward. He shouted in a loud voice, "Surrender, or be destroyed." Jake walked into the open. His leg hurt. His back burned. But he stood tall. "We will not surrender. You will leave. This world is not yours." The Korlax leader laughed. "One broken man? You think you stop us?" Jake raised his hand. Behind him, dozens of Tellaré appeared. They held nothing but sticks and tools, but their eyes were strong. Not just me. All of us. The leader raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a loud sound filled the sky. A new ship appeared, sleek, silver, and fast. It flew over the hills and hovered above the field. A voice echoed from above. "Earth Rescue Team, step away from the Talari." The Korlax turned in surprise. Shots fired from the Earth ship, hitting the ground near them. Warning shots. Out. Jake stepped back as more ships landed. Human soldiers ran out, aiming weapons at the Korlax. The Korlax leader looked around. He saw defeat and gave the order. Retreat. The black ships lifted off, leaving behind smoke and broken ground. Cheers rose from the Telarae. They hugged each other and cried. Jake dropped to one knee. His strength was gone, but his heart was full. Nira helped him up. They came. "Yes," Jake said, "but you saved yourselves. You only finished what you began." Later, the Earth team gave aid and supplies. They repaired homes and healed wounds. They met with the Talari leaders and shared knowledge. One officer came to Jake. "Did well. We got your message just in time." Jake smiled. "Took you long enough." The officer laughed. "We were told 17 broken bones and still walking. Thought it was a joke." "Not a joke," Jake said. "Just a long day." That night, the village was full of light and music. Talari and humans shared food. They sang songs in 2 languages. 8. Peace had come. But the story of the human who faced pain with a smile had only just begun. The days after the battle passed quietly. Land around the village still showed signs of the fight. Burnt ground, broken trees, and the remains of old traps. But the people did not feel fear anymore. They felt proud. Jake walked slowly through the village. His cane touched the ground with each step. His face looked tired, but his eyes were calm. Children ran past him, laughing and playing. They had seen danger, and now they felt safe. The Earth team had stayed for some days. They helped fix the healing centers and added strong walls to the village. They also shared food, tools, and knowledge. But most of all, they listened to the Talari. One evening, Jake sat near a small fire. Nira joined him and handed him a drink made from local fruit. It was warm and sweet. "They talk about you," she said. "In the other villages, too." Jake looked at the fire. "Let them talk. The real strength was not mine. It was yours." Nira shook her head. "He gave us the will to fight, to protect. That is not small." A group of Tellar elders came to him the next day. He carried a round stone with marks carved into it. It was a symbol of great honor. "You stood when we would have fallen," one elder said. "You stayed when you could have left, right? We name you a friend of our world." Jake took the stone with both hands. He said nothing for a moment. Then he smiled. "Thank you. I will carry this always." When the Earth team prepared to leave, they offered Jake a seat on the ship. He looked at the ship, then at the village. He looked at Nira. "Not yet," he said. "There is still more to do." So the ship left without him. Jake stayed on Dravik 4. Over time, he helped build new schools where young Talari could learn about Earth, space, and other worlds. Taught them how to stay safe, how to work together, and how to think strong. Nira worked beside him. She also began to teach the Earth team about her people. She spoke at meetings, sent messages, and asked for peace between worlds. 1 year later, a new program began. Talari and humans would live and learn together. Some Talari went to Earth, some humans came to Dravik 4. A new chapter had started. People still told the story of the crash, of the man who walked out of fire with 17 broken bones, of the one who said, "Oh, that," like it was nothing. They called him many names. The one who stood, Silent Flame, the Human Stone. Jake just smiled at all of it. He lived in a small home near the edge of the village. It had simple walls and a wide view of the hills. Every morning, he walked with his cane to check the training fields. Every evening, he sat with the young ones and told stories. One day, a small Talari boy asked him, "Did it really hurt? All those bones?" Jake laughed. "Of course it did. But pain is not the end. It is just the start of something better." Eyed boy nodded. "I want to be strong like you." "You already are," Jake said. In time, other planets heard the story. They wanted to learn from the Talari. They wanted to meet the human who had changed everything. Visitors came from far places. They listened to the people, walked through the training fields, and stood where the battle had taken place. But Jake did not care much for fame. He cared about the work, the building, the future. One evening, Nira brought a small plant to his home. It had just started to bloom. "You said you liked this flower," she said. "I did," Jake said. "It grew strong in hard soil." They stood together in the soft light. Dravik was peaceful now. The people were no longer helpless. They were ready and they were proud. And in the heart of the village lived a man who once walked through fire and said, "Oh, that," as if pain was nothing. But to the Tellar, he was everything.